Good evening. I'm Lisa Rupert with the YWCA Metro Vancouver. It's a pleasure to be part of this important discussion on equitable housing. The housing affordability crisis impacts people differently. One critical issue is the gendered aspect of homelessness. For women, the leading cause of homelessness is intimate partner violence. In just one 24-hour period, there was a survey done last year, and there were 1,055 women and children staying in transition houses across BC, and another 201 people who were turned away that day. For women in this situation, finding safe, affordable housing is particularly challenging because statistically, single women with children have the lowest incomes of any family type. Many women find that they're unable to find a place to live post-separation, and they're economically forced to return to their abuser. It's no coincidence that rates of intimate partner violence and of gender-based homicides have increased over the past few years, alongside the sharp increases in rents. Women simply can't afford to leave. I want to share a few solutions that address the gendered aspects of homelessness, and I want to share a partnership model that's worked well for the YWCA. In our case, it created deeply affordable housing for women and their dependent children, but it's a cost-efficient and replicable way to generally increase affordable housing stock. The first thing is the importance of a gendered analysis in informing policy decisions that address housing equity. In 2018, YWCAs from across Canada successfully advocated with the federal government to recognize the unique barriers that women face in accessing housing and to commit 25% of all funds under the National Housing Strategy to projects for women and their families. We continue to advocate for affordable housing, but we also are calling for the development of a national definition of homelessness that reflects the unique causes, conditions, and experiences of homelessness for women and gender-diverse peoples. You can't fix a problem if you don't name it and properly understand it. The anti-violence sector has been a strong voice for the needs of women fleeing abuse for many years. Over the past decade, we've seen fewer and fewer women able to move from that first stage transition house to second stage transition houses to subsidized housing. What we're seeing is that the first stage transition houses don't have space anymore. They're full, there's nowhere for people to go. So they're staying there longer and longer, and that means nobody else can use them. The same thing's happening in second stage, and pretty much nobody is getting into the long-term affordable housing that they used to be able to get into. We also see people going from first stage house to first stage house to first stage house, and this has a terrible impact, particularly on children. There was a family I knew who stayed in 6 different places over 6 months, waiting to get into something affordable, until they finally landed with us. When they went to our long-term housing, it should have been a really happy time, but for the son who had to change schools yet again in grade 7, he had actually become suicidal, because he had to move, he had to leave his school, he had to leave all his friends yet again. The solution that transition houses are coming up with across the province, born out of necessity, is that they are expanding their services to include building and operating long-term affordable housing for women and for children. The BC Society of Transition Houses, our umbrella organization, has been key in supporting its membership to do this, most recently creating a toolkit for building women-centered housing. I was privileged to be able to share some of the things that are working in YWCA long-term housing, because we've been doing this for a while now, but I also just learned so much from them and from the toolkit. And one aspect that it covers is the need for flexible housing, because women are still predominantly responsible for caring not just for children, but for senior family members. They provide examples of flexible housing units that have a door between one-bedroom unit or bachelor unit and larger units, so that they can be used for extended family situations where needed, and then closed off into separate units when it isn't needed. This really resonated with me, as we see many women caring for their mothers staying in our second stage transition houses, and there are a few other transition houses that will take them. The definition of family is often limited to parents and their dependent children. And that includes long-term housing too. There's few affordable housing options available for large or extended families. The toolkit also features many images of 2 innovative YWCA projects, YWCA Causeway Care House and YWCA Pacific Spirit Terrace. Causeway Care House was a partnership with the City of Vancouver and the Vancouver Public Library to build housing above a new library called Nutsamuts. Pacific Spirit Terrace was a partnership with the City of Vancouver and the Vancouver Fire and Rescue Services to build housing above Fire Hall number 5 when they replaced the old one. And yes, I was initially really worried about noise levels, but the sound attenuation worked, and we haven't had a single noise complaint about the sirens. And I want to give a shout out to former Vancouver City Councillor Ellen Woodsworth, because this wasn't our idea. She was the one who had the idea of putting the housing above the library, which then led to the fire hall. And it's made a world of difference to the families who live there. Both Causeway Care House and Pacific Spirit Terrace are located in urban areas, right on public transportation routes, near all essential services and amenities. And this is so critical to people who are living on low incomes and usually don't have vehicles. It really contributes to their ability to participate meaningfully in their communities. We would have struggled to find and afford land in these locations without this partnership. Not only didn't we have to buy land, we benefited from sharing the costs of the builds. The total budget for the Fire Hall project, for example, which was completed in 2019, was $19.3 million. $10.13 million for the replacement of the Fire Hall, and $9 million to build 31 units of housing. We were able to access grants and to fundraise to cover the full amount. We didn't need to have a mortgage, and we were able to raise money for an endowment fund to use to supplement our operating costs. On an ongoing basis, we continue to benefit from sharing maintenance and repair costs. The end result is that we were able to offer housing at deeply affordable rates. At Causeway Care House, all 21 units are rent geared to income, meaning tenants pay 30% of their gross income, or if they're on income assistance, the shelter portion. At Pacific Spirit Terrace, half of the 31 units are rent geared to income, and the other half were set at 65% of BC Housing's high income limits at the time of construction. Those units are now $1,005 a month for a 2-bedroom and $1,205 for a 3-bedroom. If you're not a renter, by comparison, the average rate for a 1-bedroom in Metro Vancouver is now $2,800. In addition to the very affordable rents, the low capital and operating costs of the building means that we're able to provide supports that help tenants to maintain their housing and to improve their long-term economic well-being. We have community development coordinators who connect women to resources and help foster a sense of community within the building. And we have employment navigators who support women to identify their employment goals and chart a path to get there, including having priority in our childcare and accessing YWCA bursaries if they're going to post-secondary education. An additional benefit has been that for women fleeing intimate partner violence, living above a busy library or the fire hall has created an enhanced sense of safety. There's been interest from municipalities across the country in replicating these models, particularly the one above the fire hall. I think they're building more fire halls than libraries these days. By recognizing and addressing the gendered aspects of housing, fostering partnerships with municipalities to best use their resources, we can create housing options that meet the specific needs of women. And the thing that makes me smile every time I see Causeway Care House and Pacific Spirit Terrace is that we ensure that women experiencing intimate partner violence and their children are able to have a life free from abuse. Thank you.